Helen Keller is known around the world as a symbol of courage in the face of overwhelming odds. Helen Keller was so important to changing the attitudes of the world toward handicapped people, but in particular blind people and deaf people. Helen Adams Keller was born with full sight and hearing on June 27, 1880 in Tuscumbia, Alabama. Yet at 19 months she was stricken with what at the time was called brain fever and was left both blind and deaf. Helen was a very privileged little girl. Her parents were quite wealthy and her mother in particular was very intelligent and very well read, and she contacted the Perkins School for the Blind. I managed to get help in the form of Anne Sullivan Mazie, the now very famous teacher of Helen Keller, and Sullivan again working with fingerspelling and other ways of trying to communicate with very little success, until one moment the aha moment came. It hit and to take Helen out to the water pump, and she hand pumped the water and let the cold water flow through Helen's one hand while she finger spelled wait R and the other hand. Everything just came together for Helen and for Anne, and all of a sudden the behavioral problems disappeared and they started fingerspelling, and they managed to develop 30 different new words by the end of that first day, and they were on their way. By age 10 Helen Keller had mastered Braille as well as the manual alphabet. She also learned to use a typewriter. By age 16 Keller could speak well enough to go to preparatory school, and by age 24 she had graduated from Radcliffe College. Laude, she's the first deafblind person to graduate from a college. She graduated in 1904, and Sullivan Mazie, her brilliant teacher, had to manually sign every single lesson into her hand. When Helen was still in college she wrote her first book, her biography. From that she began writing other articles and speaking, and because of her deaf blindness people would pay attention in a way that they didn't to other people perhaps, and she used that to advocate for not just disability issues but political and social issues including women's suffrage, birth control and other issues as well. Helen Keller was famous from the age of 8, but her celebrity increased as she championed the cause of those with disabilities internationally. During the 1930s, 40s and 50s she traveled the world, 39 countries, bringing hope and courage to millions of people. She changed the perception of people with vision loss. Rehabilitation centers and schools for the blind were established because of her visits. In the late 50s and early 60s Helen's life story was brought to the masses with The Miracle Worker first is a TV movie, then a Broadway show, and finally an Oscar-winning movie. She knew everybody from Alexander Graham Bell to Lyndon B. Johnson, and she was brilliant at leveraging all the people that she knew for help to change the lives of those with vision loss. Helen Keller lobbied on behalf of the American Federation for the Blind for 44 years. She died in her sleep on June 1, 1968, just weeks away from her 88th birthday. Helen Keller will be remembered for really transforming the view of the blind and others with disabilities. Prior to her life, people with disabilities were seen as people who did not deserve to live full lives, and Helen Keller's activism, her life story, really challenged the stereotype and said that people with disabilities can live a full and complete life. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe channel.